Welcome. Wanted to welcome you to our webinar, How to Flatten Your Stomach, even if you're going to or about to go through the menopause. I'm Mark Gray and this is Stephen. Just a quick housekeeping thing. If you would let me know if you can definitely hear me, if you just type in the box, I'd really appreciate it. There's almost 100 people on this webinar, so if you just type in the box and let me know that you can hear us, that would be very much appreciated. We're going to share with you as much knowledge as we can in the next 30 minutes. Brilliant, thank you, Karen, appreciate that. So feel free throughout the whole thing to ask any questions that you have, and we'll do our best to help you. So without further ado, Stephen. So we wanted to do this webinar, well, this is actually our first webinar we've ever done, so excuse any technical issues, but we wanted to do it on flattening your stomach, because like Mark says, we own transformation centers and 85% of our clients are actually female, and they're actually mainly about 42 plus. And so what we've found from years and years of experience is that women of that age really seem to struggle with storing more and more body fat than they ever have done, particularly around their stomach. And I'm sure if you've obviously clicked on this webinar, this is the same for you. Now, there are reasons why women of that age and hormonal this age tend to put on fat, particularly around your stomach. But there's also a lot of things that can be done to actually stop that and not allow it to carry on effectively. So we're going to go through the top 3 strategies that we found from our experience to have quite a big impact. So it's not irreversible. The women, we've seen hundreds of women actually lose a load of body fat from their stomach, particularly despite having been going through the menopause, having gone through the menopause. And it is possible, if you know kind of the reasons why you do tend to store fat around there, what you can do to actually kind of reverse that trend. So we're going to take you off with the first thing, which is don't do steady state cardio. And when I say about steady state cardio, I'm talking classes. And what tends to happen is that people think the more and more exercise they do, the more and more fat they should lose, particularly going out for long distance runs, doing lots of different sorts of cardiovascular exercise. So give an example of some cardiovascular
it might be going out for actually a really good one is just we've had the London Marathon. So actually, when I hear one of our clients say that they want to run the London Marathon, and weirdly we had it seemed like the most number of ladies, especially kind of around 46, wanted to run the marathon this year. And actually, as soon as someone says that, I'm pretty much in the mindset of, okay, let's see how much fat we can limit them putting on, because a lot of people start running a marathon thinking that they're going to lose body fat, but the long steady state runs that they have to do in order to do the distance and get times or whatever they want actually leads to them increasing body fat, especially around their stomach. Now, this actually affects anyone of any age in terms of the long distance running being an issue, but it's only more exacerbated if you are just about to go through the menopause, have gone, or during the menopause.
So, and like Mark says, what happens is you increase that cortisol, which is your stress hormone. So this actually impacts you if you're having a lot of stress. So family things, if you're working long hours, that's also stress on your body. But combining that with lots of cardiovascular exercise actually causes you to store fat around your stomach, which is obviously not what you want. So another reason actually to try and avoid that type of exercise, particularly at this age, is that it increases acidity, which means basically your body becomes more acid. Now, the problem is when your body becomes more acid, your body actually wants to be alkaline. So what you do is you actually break down calcium from your bones and something called glutamine from your muscles. So you basically break down your bones and your muscles. Now, I'm sure most people are aware, and they would tend to be told by their GP after they get, I think GP starts talking about it 40 years plus, but he's mentioning the increased risk of things like osteoporosis. So actually, by doing lots and lots of steady state cardio, you're actually going to be increasing your risk of osteoporosis as well. So your body really wants to try to alkalize itself, so it actually breaks down your bones and muscles. So just by increasing the amount of cardiovascular exercise you're doing, you can actually cause yourself to thin your bones. And that has been, I've met with plenty of people that have done a lot of long distance running, things like that, who have actually, when they've actually been tested, have found they've actually got really thin bones, and that's because of all the acidity they're building up within themselves.
Now, you'll probably have just seen the news. I think it was Victoria Beckham, the new Victoria Beckham diet, and it's. I read a women's magazine yesterday, and it was basically calling it an alkaline diet. And I mean, they've just packaged up what is general health, and you should be doing anyway. Is you want to be alkaline, and they were saying going along the same lines, but they just sensationalizing it a little bit more. But your body wants to be alkaline, and in short, running and doing steady state, repetitive cardiovascular work will make you acidic, which is the opposite of what you want in order to not store fat around your stomach, but also to lose weight in general.
And so actually, when we talk about how steady state cardio tends to break down muscle tone, by breaking down muscle tone actually decreases your metabolism. So just by having a decrease in muscle tone, you're actually going to be finding that you're burning less calories. So just by eating the same foods, you'll actually be burning less of those calories, and therefore you're going to actually be putting on fat.
Yes, so a lot of people will focus on, they go for a long run and they'll be like, oh, but I burnt 600 calories or whatever. That's kind of looking at life through a straw, because you're not looking at the actual overall damage that is being done to your body, which actually 40 plus, unfortunately, all of the things you've done prior affect you. And we're experiencing, I mean, it's getting younger and younger, people starting to have issues. I mean, the menopause is starting at a younger age now, and therefore younger ladies are also experiencing the same issues that people do at 40 to 42 plus. But the long steady state cardio really is detrimental to your weight loss, and also to you having a flat stomach.
So what is the best type of exercise? So we've told you what you want to be looking at if you're doing a lot of, what you want to try and change. Now, the best form of exercise for a woman, basically 40 onwards, is resistance training. That is, if your aim is to actually lose weight and to keep it off. And the reason I wrote, have you done diets before, is because this is, I mean, the number of consultations, the number of appointments, and number of clients we have, number that have done some form of diet at some stage is enormous. I'd say probably 90% of people at some stage have done one type of diet, whether it's Weight Watchers, Lighter Life. There's about 500,000 different types of diets now, which are basically ways of reducing your calories. Now, the problem with doing that is it really reduces also your metabolism. So, and I'm sure if you're very similar to the people, the ladies we meet, then at some stage the weight seems to have gone back on. Now, the reason the resistance training is the best form of exercise is that it raises your metabolism. It's one of the only ways to actually increase your metabolism whilst you're at rest. So by doing resistance training, your metabolism increases. So it's one way that can really repair the damage that a lot of diets have done in the past. And contrary to a lot of people's beliefs, it's really, really, really tough for a woman to put on significant amounts of muscle. In fact, it's nigh on impossible. If you were able to, you'd have put it on already. You'd know that you were more muscular than normal.
And exactly, when Stephen says significant amounts of muscle, he means so that you would become what's termed muscle bound, which is, I've met one lady in my life, and that was on a course, and she was an athlete, a shot putter, and she had an exceptional amount of muscle. She also had an exceptional amount of testosterone, which 99.9% of ladies, including you, will not have. Therefore, doing resistance work will only benefit you both health-wise, but also in terms of losing fat from your stomach.
Exactly right. So by using resistance training, that's when we say resistance training, we should define it as actually using things like weights and actually trying to just get stronger dumbbells, different things like that, and trying to actually get stronger, not being afraid of those sorts of things. You burn a lot more calories in the long run. And actually what you're going to find, excuse me, is that you create a lot more toned type of muscles rather than, and this is one thing actually when we spoke about diets, I've met with a lot of people and they said, I lost such and such 2 stone on Lighter Life or this certain diet, but I looked gaunt. I didn't look very healthy. People were telling me I didn't look very healthy. And that is a classic sign that what you've done is lose muscle rather than fat. So if you were to look gaunt, you'd find that your body composition, which means your body fat, has probably not actually changed that much. You've rather just lost a lot of muscle rather than fat. And obviously, the thing that makes a difference in your clothes, the thing that makes a difference to dress sizes, is losing fat. You don't want to lose muscle, you want to maintain your muscle and maybe even build a little bit of muscle tone so that you can have a toned body, and obviously that keeps everything nice and tight. But if you're losing muscle, you're going to find that you do look gaunt because you're less healthy, and that's a fact. The lower your body fat is, the healthier you are. So by losing weight, and if it's muscle, then your actually body fat will, if anything, can actually go up as well.
Just a really quick point is that marathon runners, the average body fat percentage of them is 13%, but for a sprinter who does short, sharp bursts, their average is about 6 to 8% body fat.
So Mark's talking about Olympic athletes.
Olympic athletes, that's what I'm talking about. But that shows that even someone that's running all day, every day, their body fat is higher than somebody who actually runs for a lot less than them as part of their training. So if we can take a toned down version of that, it's obvious that long distance, steady state kind of work isn't the right thing for you to be doing.
Yeah, and if you were to look at, I think everyone would agree that obviously Jessica Ennis is a little bit of an extreme version, but if you were to compare her to, say, someone like Paula Radcliffe, she looks a lot healthier and is a lot more toned and a lot healthier looking.
So, like I said before, if you have any questions, do just chuck them in the box below, or I think it's below where you are typing now. We're happy to answer any questions all the way through, and we want to make sure you get as much information from this 30 minutes as possible, and we're happy to give you as much info as we can and help you as much as we can.
So, moving on to the third strategy, is one of the main reasons actually that women tend to store body fat around their stomach is something called insulin resistance. So basically, what happens is you cannot, well, a lot of people I've spoken to say that they're eating the same foods that they were, say, 10, 15 years ago, but they're having massively different impacts on them. So they're putting on weight and they can't work out why, because they're eating the same foods that they used to. Now, there's a very good reason for this, because one of the side effects of going through the menopause is, or coming up to it at least, is that your insulin resistance increases. Insulin resistance basically means how well you tolerate eating carbohydrates. So basically, if you were to take yourself, maybe we'll call it, say, let's take an average age, say 50, and you were to compare yourself to you at 25 and have this exact same meal, you would do completely different things with those two meals. So the 50-year-old would far more likely store that food as body fat than the 25-year-old, because through to one of the side effects of going through the menopause is an increase in insulin resistance. Basically, you are not able to eat the same number, or at least the same type of carbohydrates that you used to, and keep the weight off the same. So I'm sure you're aware of that already. I'm probably telling you something you already know, but the thing with insulin resistance is it directly correlates to storing fat around your stomach. So basically, any carbohydrates that you do eat are far more likely to be stored around your stomach. That's when I'm talking mainly sugary types of carbs and things like pastas and things. So what is the answer? Well, a couple of strategies would be to really, rather than, the way we work, with the way we've managed to get transformations with people, is we tend not to try and say, stop doing this or cut this out, but rather you're going to do better by thinking, right, how do I actually, what can I increase, what can I do differently? And the first one of those strategies would be to really increase the amount of green leafy vegetables you eat in every single meal. Literally make them dominate the plate. So when I say green leafy vegetables, I'm talking about things like broccoli, curly kale, all the different sorts of green leafy vegetables that there are, spinach, all those sorts of things. You cannot go wrong with green leafy vegetables. So literally, rather than thinking about cutting things out, try and make at least half of your plate one of those green leafy vegetables. And by doing that, you're naturally not going to be able to eat as much of, say, if you're eating any sorts of pastas or potatoes, things like that, because you will find that you're actually quite full by eating those green vegetables. A lot of people don't realize that green leafy vegetables are actually a type of carbohydrate. They're just very fibrous. So they actually are very, very good for your blood sugar. They'll give you a lot of energy, and they are far, far less likely to be stored around your stomach.
One of the added benefits of having lots of green leafy vegetables and more fibre is that you'll end up storing less fat on your stomach, sure, but also less fat on your bum and your legs, because it also helps you excrete estrogen from your body, and that estrogen that you have in your body is the reason you store fat on your legs and bum. And you'll notice that as well as around your stomach, that's probably also where you store fat, and that's why having green leafy vegetables will actually help you lose fat from your legs and bum.
And actually, I want to mention today, because it's really, really topical. I know everyone's probably seen Angelina Jolie talking about her double mastectomy preventative, and we just recorded a podcast where we had to do a load of research of nutrition for different types of cancers, and the actual recommendations now for cancer, avoidance, but also for treatment, is 13 servings of vegetables a day. That's an enormous amount, but it really, really does show quite how important, obviously, not only for fat loss, but for the whole nutrients and for also health value that they do give. So literally, one of the best strategies would be to think, right, how many actual green vegetables do I eat a day? And really just really try to increase it so that every meal you're making them dominate the plate.
Now, we've had a quick question come in saying, should I be eating fruit? I'm being healthy when I'm eating fruit to lose fat around my stomach. Is that true?
Now, this is one of the actual best myths there are. Now, fruits are healthy. Yes, they are definitely very healthy for you. They contain a lot of different sorts of antioxidants and very healthy things. However, a food that's healthy for you is not necessarily the best food for fat loss. So, for example, and also, we can also differentiate between the different types of vegetables. Fruits, sorry. So if we're talking fruits, the only types of fruits for you to eat if you're looking to lose fat, and particularly from around your stomach, is anything that ends with berry. So blueberry, strawberry, raspberry, any sort of berry. Now the reason for that is that they contain a lot more fiber than most other fruits. They also contain an enormous amount of antioxidants. I always like to use the example between a banana and a blueberry. A banana has very, very little fiber and is actually very, very sugary. So you're far more likely to store that energy effectively around your stomach. So if you were to just stick to having blueberries as your fruit, you'll find that you're actually going to lose fat, particularly from around your stomach. And you're going to still get more than enough healthy antioxidants and things like that.
So quickly to go back, just real quick, reiterate what we've said. In order to lose fat from your stomach, you want to be not doing steady state cardio and steady state cardio classes, and therefore you want to be doing the opposite of that, which is short, sharp bursts, fast, slow. It might have been in some of the magazines you perhaps read, HIIT, they're calling it. It's been around for a long, long time. It's just basically where you go fast and then slow, fast and slow, and you can get what you would take an hour to do if you just went out for a run, done in 20 minutes. And that's what we have everyone doing in our centres, is short, sharp bursts with rest, short, hard, intense bursts with rest, and that gets far, far better results in losing your fat around the stomach, but also losing weight in general, than doing long, steady runs. So likewise with that, the next thing is to include resistance exercise in your exercise, basically. So a lot of people think that going for walks and things, that's at the end of the day, even if you do a brisk walk, that is kind of long, steady state. You're not doing resistance work, unfortunately. So you do need to be doing exercise that stresses your muscles and means that you get stronger as a result.
And also, just on that, is obviously, as we covered already, is one of the most effective ways of decreasing the risk of osteoporosis, which obviously osteoporosis, once you go through the menopause, the risk for that goes up, basically.
We've also just got another question. Can we do anything else to change our insulin resistance?
Yes, so like we were just saying, increasing the amount of green vegetables, leafy vegetables, will actually help that, because by increasing the amount of fiber in your diet, you're actually going to be decreasing the amount of insulin you produce, which will increase your sensitivity. Also, actually, just on that, another strategy would be to, like I said about increasing the amount of green vegetables, have a look at how much protein you're actually eating in a meal, because just by increasing protein, as long as it's healthy type of protein, chicken breast, salmon, turkey, clean, properly, not breaded, not fried, that sort of thing. Non-processed type of meat, but increase the amount of protein you have in each meal, and that actually will help with your insulin resistance, because you'll actually find that your blood sugar stays a lot more stable.
Likewise, with that, also not being afraid of good fats will make a large difference, because basically when you eat healthy fats, you don't produce any insulin, whereas when you eat carbs, refined carbs, you produce a lot of insulin naturally. So if you include healthy fats in every meal, then you'll go a long way in reducing your insulin resistance, increasing your insulin sensitivity. So when I say healthy fats, I mean things like coconut oil, olive oil will be poured on cold foods because it loses its properties under heat. So basically you don't cook with olive oil, you only use olive oil for cold, salads, that kind of thing. Whereas you could actually cook with coconut oil because it keeps its property under high heats.
And you can get coconut oil from any basically supermarket now. It's quite common.
You can get it from, yes, it's in Waitrose, it's in Tesco's, Sainsbury's, I've seen it. Also, there's avocados are a very, very good healthy fat choice. And the thing with good fats is that good fats make you lose fat. Okay, so you should not be afraid of having fat in your diet, and that is what we experience with a lot of ladies, probably just like you. They're afraid, they're kind of got taken in by the mantra of the advertising companies that you want low fat this, low fat that, and actually it's been shown that, I think the new study is that people who eat low fat actually end up putting on more fat than those that eat full fat, which is a strange phenomenon.
That goes along with actually when you talk about drinks. So full fat Coke as opposed to Diet Coke. Studies also show that the people that drink Diet Coke put on just the same amount of weight as those that drink full fat as well.
Yes, so in short, don't be afraid of eating healthy fats, okay? They will help you lose fat from your stomach.
Right, I think we digressed a little bit now, but we were carrying on talking about the best strategies you can use to, actually this will increase your insulin sensitivity, so decrease your insulin resistance, but also one of the best strategies to lose fat from your stomach is actually to try and avoid white carbs, e.g. things like potato, pasta, those sorts of white types of processed foods. And they're actually white because they've been processed and had effectively a lot of stuff taken out of them. Among one of those most important things they've had taken out of them is fiber. And actually, just a side note, when you're talking about pasta, because pasta is obviously wheat, now 75% of the population they actually estimate are actually what's called gluten intolerant. So I'm not talking celiac, but basically you get what's called an inflammatory reaction in every time you eat any sort of wheat. Now the thing with this is that this actually increases that hormone that we spoke about earlier, cortisol, the stress hormone, which increases your chance, or actually increases your fat storage from around your stomach. Basically, that hormone cortisol causes you to store fat around your belly button area and your hip area. So the best thing you can do is to try and decrease that hormone from having to raise. And if you find that you actually feel bloated and things after having any sort of wheat, then one of the easiest ways to actually decrease fat from around your stomach would be to try and avoid wheat as much as possible.
And you'll probably notice this, that when you eat some really refined things like white bread or whatever, you'll probably feel very bloated. And that's a very common, but it's a good indicator of you shouldn't be having those. It's going to be affecting your body negatively, and unfortunately that negative impact is fat around your stomach. So rather than saying don't just cut them out, carb sources to substitute them for would be actually, like I said, green vegetables. I mentioned that they are actually a type of carbohydrate, so don't worry that you're not getting enough carbohydrate because they are a type. And also a sweet potato. Sweet potato is also a great source of carbohydrate as well, but much more nutrient rich, far more fiber, and actually is going to help you lose fat from around your stomach rather than help you store it, which potatoes and pasta would do.
Keep asking questions because we might go over. We've got another couple more questions to answer, but we don't mind going over another 10 or whatever minutes. So just type the questions in the box.
Now I actually haven't got this on the slide, but I just really thought I wanted to mention this. Another great strategy to lose fat from around your stomach would be breakfast. Now, obviously I'm assuming you're having breakfast because most people have read at least something that says that eating breakfast is important. But most people think that by having a bowl of porridge, oats or something similar, they are doing as much as they can to actually lose as much fat as possible. Actually, that's not the case. The best type of breakfast is one that includes a good amount of quality protein and healthy fats. Now, for most people, the easiest way to get this is through some type of omelette. So some type of egg omelette that involves basically, for a lady of normal average build, about 3 eggs is probably ideal. And you can put anything you want in that, really. We're talking onions, tomatoes, peppers, spinach, whatever you'd like to eat. But
if you had that with salmon, that would be the perfect breakfast. I know what you're probably saying, but I can't have 3 eggs. I'm going to get high cholesterol. I'm going to have issues. Stephen?
Well, that's actually not true. The studies were redone and they were kind of disproved years and years ago. But basically, your body doesn't actually increase the amount of cholesterol it has by eating more cholesterol. Your body has a very smart mechanism where it will just decrease the amount that you actually produce.
It's self-regulated.
So your body won't actually allow you to have high cholesterol. The actual biggest cause of cholesterol, all the studies now show, is actually sugar. And that's also one of the big reasons that you store fat around your stomach is too much sugar. So by actually doing the strategies that we've discussed today, you're actually going to decrease your risk of cholesterol as well as losing fat from around your stomach, which obviously is very, very important.
Right, a few more minutes to ask some questions. If you would, just chuck them in the box and we'll answer them as soon as we can. Before people start, there's a few people write us questions. Because we appreciate you being on this webinar, we have obviously a centre in Bedford and Milton Keynes, and we're going to be offering out. We have a very private studio, but we have opened up 5 spots
because we actually have a very really cool piece of equipment. It's a £5,000 worth body fat machine. It actually tells you how much body fat you have, where you store it, how much muscle you have. And what we're decided to do is, this is normally reserved for just our clients, but for 5 people, I think there's 96 actually on this webinar, 96 people. So for the first 5 people that decide, what we're going to do is free, 30-minute, no obligation, literally just a chance where you can come in, use the machine. We'll be able to tell you exactly how much fat you have around your stomach, and therefore we've got a special way that we can actually work out how long it should be for you to lose what you need to basically get a flat stomach. So this machine allows us literally to segment your body so we can actually know in pounds of how much is fat. It's really a really great machine, and it's really useful for people to actually know how much fat they store and then be able to actually have an endpoint so they can see effectively the horizon and know that, yes, this is how long it's going to take for me to basically lose as much fat as I need to lose.
So just go to clientbooking.viprespond.com if you want to do that. I've just sent it to you as well. Let's see. There we go, another question. Would we recommend body pump classes?
Now, the problem with body pump classes is they tend to be a routine, effectively.
And let me just put a caveat in that we don't
exercise is exercise. So if it's all a relative thing. So if it's body pump compared to going for a long steady state run, then yes, body pump wins. We obviously work on the ideal, and that's what we implement in the centres. So carry on with body pump.
So we don't want to. It depends. If you're doing lots and lots of body pump and expecting to lose fat from your stomach, then I would say no, that's not the best type of exercise to lose fat from your stomach. Because what happens, it's a routine, so there's only so much progression you can actually make. Routines tend to stay very similar, and therefore there's not that much progression. Your body really needs to progress to lose fat, and it actually is a type of aerobics with weights. It's not really properly resistance training, because when you can do hundreds of reps of something, then you're actually doing aerobics anyway. So for most people, I mean, like I said, like Mark said, it's better than sitting on the sofa, in my opinion. However, it's not the optimal thing for losing fat, particularly fat around your stomach.
And when we talk, if you're doing body pump, anything above a minute, if you're doing exercise weights, anything above a minute, 40 to a minute, that's kind of heading towards cardio work. And that's not a short, sharp burst anyway, basically. You're not going to be pushing your body hard for a short, sharp burst, which is obviously what we recommend, and it's been proven to be the best for losing fat around your stomach.
Now, some people won't be able to go. They may not have exercised before, and so therefore they don't start. They start on what, relative to someone else, wouldn't seem like a short, sharp burst, but it is all relative. So don't worry if you're not actually at the stage where you can really push yourself hard. That's not the point. It's just really want to get across that a lot of people we've met tend to think that doing more and more would equal a better result. And actually, I think I put in the slide, I don't think we mentioned that the definition of insanity via Albert Einstein is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And that's what I think a lot of people have kind of got into the habit of doing, thinking that just doing more will actually get a better result. So running further, running for longer, doing more running sessions, doing more aerobic sessions in a week, burning, because a lot of people, women particularly, think that if they burn a certain number of calories, then they have to lose weight. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, because every time you eat some food, it has a hormonal impact. So like we said, when you get sort of past 40 years of age, all the things that you tend to have done in the past tend to catch up with you, and you're not actually able to get away with doing them. So your hormones change, and it's very important that you do the right things to really keep those hormones in check effectively.
Another question from a lovely lady is, what supplement would you recommend for someone who's going through the menopause? A natural supplement. The number one supplement I would recommend would probably be magnesium. I know from experience that sleep is often affected, and that's due to a depletion of a certain mineral in the body called magnesium.
Now, magnesium, and this has been really, really awesome. Whenever we give this to clients, it really makes a massive difference, because sleep is so, so important. And just a couple of days of poor sleep, I can't remember the exact stat, but really you get a lot closer to depression, literally, just from a couple of days of poor sleep.
I mean, they use sleep deprivation as a torture. So, if you're not sleeping properly, you're not going to be optimally losing fat, and also being happy.
And also, actually, you're actually going to be putting your body under stress, which again is going to increase that cortisol hormone, which is going to encourage fat to be stored around your stomach. And also, you generally, I think it's one night's poor sleep actually increases your insulin resistance. So if you're having regularly poor night's sleep, then you are going to struggle to lose fat as well as you could. So magnesium, which is naturally depleted for women coming up or going through or having been through the menopause, would be a very, very good supplement to have to help you sleep. So you take it at night. Now make sure you don't get magnesium oxide, because basically all that does is help you go to the toilet better. You want you're not going to have that many different types of options of magnesium, but just don't go for magnesium oxide.
And just so you know, there's 3 people taking up the little session with us, where you find out how much fat you store around your stomach and how long it will take you to lose that to get a flat stomach or flat stomach so you're happy. So just, if you want that, just quickly put your details in, clientbooking.viprespond.com.
If it's our diary, you can choose the time that suits you. Right, we've got a few questions, but we might have to leave it now. We've got some appointments later on. But I really hope you've got some workable, actionable steps to move forward. If obviously we're always here to help, so you've got our emails. We've emailed you, so reply with any questions you have and you think about later. We're totally happy to help. We're trying to help as many people as we can in Bedfordshire and Milton Keynes. So that's the end. I think.
Yeah. Without further ado, thank you very, very much for watching, listening, and we shall. I think you can see us now. And I hope you got some value from that. And if you have any questions, please do just let us know.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.